Yes, I can understand that she amuses, but to let her kiss you, stroke your hair, that's hardly in your line. It's not that I object to her profession, but she doesn't fit in well with what you teach and say. It doesn't help us if you're inconsistent. They only need a small excuse to put us all away.
Who are you, who, to criticize her? Who are you, who, do you despise her? Leave her, leave her, leave her be now, leave her. She's with me now. If your slate is clean, then you can throw stones. If your slate is not, then leave her alone. All right, everyone. Damn, that was a raggedy ass vocal fry. Jesus. I think
all Jesus is raggedy ass vocal fry on that part. Yeah, everyone I've heard.
The OST part, yeah, when you say leave her alone, I think you're supposed to leave her alone. I'm filmmaker, comedian, and podcaster Michael Swaim, here to talk to Buddhist monk, air battle manager, ultramarathon runner, and rocket scientist Griffin Rowell about science or whatever. And this is that show. Hey, Griffin.
Hey, Michael. Also, I just need to make a small excuse here. The lyrics you sent me cut off the first letter of they, and they only need a small excuse to put us away. So if you notice that's what happened there. I had to remember.
You actually did say hey, which I thought was funny.
I said they because I remember.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. I just don't want to, if anyone's
you sang circles around me this time, man. That was really beautiful.
Wow. Well, thank you.
Except for, I think, the very first line. Yeah, it's off on the pacing.
Well, it's hard.
Yes, I can understand that she.
Oh, you're right. I should have listened.
It's like a longer thing. Yeah.
Should we do it again? Okay.
Yeah. Here we go. No.
No. We won't do it.
But we were seriously talking about if people want. Because we're doing each song in chronological track order. We're just doing 16 bars from each one for each episode. If the show Science or whatever gets to the point that we complete the musical, these little tastes, these delicious little tastes, and people are dying or clamoring for a whole album where just Griffin and I do all of Jesus Christ Superstar, I mean, who are we to say no?
It would be a lifelong dream fulfilled. We've been talking about this since we were 8 or something.
No, we were specifically talking about going to an open mic at a bar and doing the part where Pilate whips Jesus 49 times. And I was just going to go bang, 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 bang. And you were just going to go 1.
But
2.
But doesn't that just show the limits of our imagination when we were younger? Now we have the hubris to think we could do an entire acapella.
Like we could easily
Jesus
do the
Christ
whole thing. Yeah. Definitely.
Well,
okay,
anyways,
so we'll definitely do that.
Let us know. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But this is episode 2 of our 4-part mini-series about the Metaverse. And we're calling it Into the Metaverse. Because I like Into the Spider-Verse. That's all. And what's the topic today, Griff?
So the topic today is going to be an overview of the, I'll call them like the legacy platforms that are vying for this metaverse, and all of them are seeing this as a view of a multi-trillion-dollar market that they can, capitalize on because they're big giant corporations.
Couple interesting things. As we record this, it was just announced Jack Dorsey is stepping down as the CEO of Twitter. Oh. I know Twitter is not Facebook, and Facebook is the one called Meta now, but it seems adjacent and relevant. And yeah, last time, this is part 2. If you missed part 1, look for that where we defined Metaverse and talked about what the Metaverse is. So in order to get deeper, we're not going to recap. We're going to assume you listened to part 1 and we have a basic understanding of the terms so we can get a little deeper now. So now we're talking about who's gonna metaverse, right? Who's gonna do it?
And the way that you said that is actually a point of contention right now. So I'll just throw this out there. When you hear a CEO talk about building a metaverse, watch out. Watch out for that person. We can talk about it a little bit more later, but just cue your mind for that. Prime it.
Meaning the word
Yeah.
is actually the problematic word there. That's interesting.
It shows a perspective that is that is counter to what a lot of people are thinking. So we're not going to recap, but I think Snow Crash, maybe starting every episode off with a little bit of Snow Crash.
Snow Crash, woo!
So Snow Crash is a dystopian sci-fi book, right? And the metaverse in Snow Crash is kind of this corporatocracy. Actually, I guess the real world in Snow Crash is a corporatocracy. And there's some like vague mention of how the metaverse works, that only giant corporations can do anything inside of it. But it does also have this weird anarchic, through line going through it.
Well, there's big lawless areas, but everyone lives in burbclaves, which are like if you lived in a gated community that was sponsored by Pizza Hut, which is, it's such a good book. Like, that's such spot on satire.
Yeah.
That in the future, people live in heavily armed gated communities that are like, Pizza Hut presents Verizon community. That's where you live. And in between, it's just a lawless wasteland, like Mad Max.
Yeah, or Nazis, right? Aren't there like a bunch of white supremacists?
Yeah, there's a white supremacist burbclave, which seemed far fetched at the time, and now seems like no, that makes sense.
Seems like Neil Stephenson, maybe some sort of time traveler. Yeah, so that's kind of the backdrop of what the metaverse is in this book, and you can kind of see. You can project the future from where we are now, that it could either, maybe it's not binary, but there's this large corporate interest made up of Facebooks and the other companies we're going to talk about today. And then there's this kind of what Hero is, right? In Snow Crash, she's this hacker who understands this thing that is the metaverse in ways that these large corporations don't, and moves much more quickly through it. He's also poor and lives in a shipping container. So there's that. And the next two episodes are going to really focus on this dichotomy here. So this one, and I'll just admit that this topic is less interesting to me. The large corporations basically giving an overview of a free advertisement to all of these giant companies. And then the next episode, which we are going to be recording from within a digital world built out of it's called WebXR technology.
Yeah, this is the first I'm learning this, but apparently we will record our next episode in the metaverse, and we'll see if we can upload a video of that to our YouTube. So check that out.
Yeah, and I'm building it, and I'm not an expert builder, so don't be too harsh with me. But I want to do it because I think it's important for people to see that these technologies are already out there for them to use, and we'll get there next time. But
have you used Tabletop Simulator in Steam?
No, I haven't.
Is that a metaverse?
I don't know. It
can simulate any tabletop board game experience, and you can build your own board games within it fairly easily. And you all meet and you sit around a table, and you play the game physically. Well,
I think that first of all, that sounds really cool.
Yeah, it's good for pandemics.
But I think the deeper question is no, that wouldn't be the metaverse, but those kinds of technologies are going to grow and evolve in ways that they become, maybe not that one specifically, but
but I would think that would be a function or subroutine of the metaverse.
Yeah,
you would be able to do that in the metaverse, right?
Right, and from maybe a little bit of last time, is that the metaverse is going to be an extension of the internet, and it's the spatial internet, basically. So the things that exist on the internet now, and through these native clients like Steam, which we can talk about more next time probably, will probably start to merge into technologies that build on each other things go well. And so that type of creation engine that you just described is the kind of thing that will make the metaverse more fun and way more imaginative and emergent than what a lot of these companies will build their technologies to accommodate. So everyone talks a big game about creators and everything, but
the commercial where Facebook announces their name change, which is just really a corporate reality. The product Facebook will still exist, but
Right.
anyway, is like it's a very disturbing looking, but it's like macrame, yak and tiger playing together, and they go, "This is the dimension of imagination," directly to camera. It was striking to me how that's the foot they're leading with, right? Is metaverse equals unbridled creativity. Here we go. It's gonna be like Ready Player One. Are you ready? It's the metaverse.
yeah,
They definitely want to be synonymous with creativity and imagination, which is just ironic because I think that it's a common, like, you can almost judge what a massive corporation doesn't do or doesn't nurture based on what they say they want to be or want to do. There's just a point where you get too large to pursue goals. Like you're saying, you're not deft enough to pursue that. I think imagination and creativity and innovation in the space sort of requires a deftness that Meta doesn't have, by which I mean the company, not
right.
This is going to be confusing. They should change back.
Yeah. Well, anyways.
Well, it's like
it's a terrible name change, but
like Google's technically the company that operates Google is now called Alphabet, I believe.
Right. But you still say Google for all the Google stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And when I say the word alphabet, I don't think, but I expect Meta, well, the term meta is already widely used and metaverse is going to make it even more so. I just think it's weirder. I don't often reference the alphabet, I'm realizing. Like, I don't say the word, well, according to the alphabet, let's all look at the alphabet.
Yeah.
All right. Back to your notes. What's going on?
Well, anyways, it actually is pretty much in line with what you're saying, is that Meta and a lot of these other companies that we're talking about today, they were built in the early 2000s, 90s, some of them. And so their business models are grown out of what we call Web 2, right? Which is the content web, Facebook and Twitter and Amazon and all this stuff. And with the advent of Web 3, which is a lot of different technologies, but one of the big ones that gets talked about here is the crypto technologies. There are a lot of business models and ways of organizing that these companies simply don't have access to. And when they do have access to them, like NFT technologies, they use them in different ways than the crypto native people use them. And so when a company like Disney starts to venture into this realm, you start to get this weird amalgamation of like legacy IP talk and then adding this NFT thing to it, right? And Disney is interesting because they've got so much IP and they've been working for so long.
Ubisoft, the game company, just announced that they're looking into every possible way to integrate NFTs into their future games. So they're not going to innovate with NFT technology, just like you're saying, but I just think it's an interesting real world case that just got announced is Ubisoft is like, yeah, we're going to take all of our existing IPs, your Assassin's Creed and all the stuff we have, and we're going to add NFT stuff to it.
Yeah.
Which you'll see more of early on than you'll see true innovation, right?
Right. And this is actually, I think this is actually a really easy, it's a really easy bet that companies can make. Like, let's go back to Disney for a second. They have such tight control over their properties, right? And when they have physical products in meat space, which that means the real world, the non-metaverse world, it's immutable by nature, right? Like if I buy a Disney or a Mickey Mouse plushie, I'm not gonna right-click a Mickey Mouse plushie and do something lewd to it, right? I mean, I can make a video of that, but it's not changing the actual Mickey Mouse doll.
You could, and you have. Are you saying it's illegal, the videos that I've made with my Mickey Mouse plushie? It's not illegal for me to have a video of me doing anything I want with my Mickey Mouse plushie.
Exactly. It's not illegal. It's not illegal.
Yeah, okay.
But when it's a physical object, you have control over that.
Right.
When it's a digital object, Disney is licensing you the image of Mickey Mouse.
Wow. So we actually, in some ways, have more control over... Even though we have this idea of memes just proliferate and the internet's free and it's just in the air, it's not in the way that, legally, it's not in the way that a real world object is.
Oh, for sure. In fact, even your Amazon library, you don't own any of those movies. Amazon can just retcon all of your purchases if they want.
Well, they have the right to discontinue. I don't know why they would, but let's say
they
discontinue the Prime Video service. They have the right to. They don't owe you that you own those movies forever.
Right. They don't have to ship you a DVD.
Right.
Yeah? And so that is one of the foundational aspects of why NFTs are important to people. And it's also good for a company like Disney because where someone could make whatever crazy stuff out of a Disney property that they want, if there's a line of provenance to an NFT, it may be possible through whatever digital detective work to find out how whatever happened that they don't like happened in the first place. I mean, there's still unlicensed paintings and daycares and stuff that Disney has to prosecute, but for things that are more egregious and more commercially focused, it will make it easier for them to figure out what went wrong and where it went wrong. So this is actually pretty good for corporations in addition to consumers too. But the way that they go about it is to use this very closed network of licensors and platforms to create these NFTs for people that we don't know what kind of utility they will even have. Like where will you be able to use them? What formats will you be able to download them in once you buy them? I mean, do you have unlimited interoperability? Do you have different 3D formats that you can put into different worlds? It's really yet to be seen. And the way that they're talking is they're going to build, and this is what I was getting at earlier, according to Disney's CEO, Bob Chapek, he said that Disney is going to build the Disney Metaverse, which is one of those problematic things the CEO says. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And, that's basically rule number one. There's only one metaverse, and you're just playing in it. It's like saying you're going to build the Disney internet, right? And so
you could have a separate, you can have an intranet, right? Like, you could have a separate internet that's you and 5 of your friends on a shitty network, totally separate from the internet that has like 3 websites. Would that be internet?
And that is what, when they say that is what they are describing.
That's what they're making. And it's like a shitty little thing that has very little, but it's not connected to the real internet.
Well, let's not be glib, I guess. The Disney Metaverse could be a tens of billions of dollar platform, right?
Thing. Right.
It could
but
be
it
ridiculous.
Still won't be as vast and vibrant as the internet. I see what you're saying about A versus the, yeah.
And I was actually talking to one of the guys I'm building with, and he was telling me today, I didn't know this, that Google only indexes about 4% of the internet. So,
wow.
The scale of
even
that,
the keyhole through which we view the internet is tiny. Like everyone thinks, oh, I'm really good at Google. I get those deep results. You 99% of the time, 99% of people Google it and click something on the first page. Think about
Right.
that.
Yeah.
The internet is no longer fed to you in a way where you observe much of it at all, really. And it's arguable a bunch of that is junk. And it is. That's why it's
Right.
filtered out. But you wonder what you're missing sometimes.
You do.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's the model that will perpetuate, right? If nothing happens,
Mhm.
there'll be 10 giant platforms that say they're the metaverse, and they'll basically just be platforms, right? Like
Yeah.
Blizzard has World of Warcraft. Yeah, okay, cool. We'll just have World of Warcrafts forever, and all of this crypto stuff will make NFTs.
And the art style will look like that in this whole area of
Yeah.
the metaverse. It'll
Right.
all be branded that way. You'll recognize it as World of Warcraft metaverse. Yeah, it's like a website is to the internet as Disney metaverse is to the metaverse, right?
Right, exactly. But that's not the way that they're describing it. And
Right.
because the CEO can't describe what they're building in language that is even in line with the technology that they're talking about, it
Mhm.
makes you wonder how capable they are of imagining something that
Well, yeah.
has has these features, right?
And I know the classic joke is already, or, on Twitter anyway, people have already run this into the ground, is like, it's going to be tough to invent the metaverse when most people still get motion sick when you put the giant clunky helmet on your face. Like,
Right.
there's so many technological leaps that need to happen. It's pretty early to be calling your shot to be like, our name is Meta. We are the metaverse, when we're just on the cusp of it.
I also love the hubris of saying, like you were saying earlier, like, we are creativity, we are imagination. Here's a macrame tiger talking to some other avatar. Like, the hubris of saying that the minds within Meta are the ones that should be conveying what people will imagine is, I know, necessary from a branding point of view, but also arrogant and short-sighted, because what they're going to do is they're going to build this sanitized world where imagination and creativity are not the primary intentions, right? It's going to be whatever their business model is. And I don't know. That seems sad
But
to me.
life finds a way, right? People
Life
will
finds a
mod
way.
and hack it. There's no way, like, the real metaverse will come just like the real internet came.
Yeah.
I feel like it's inevitable.
But that is a deeper conversation, because the real internet was supposed to be open and
Well, okay, so that's my real
free-flowing.
cynical question that I want to lob at you this whole episode is, and I'll put it this way because it sort of hones it down, is the blockchain, which is a series of nested contractual legal realities, the popular opinion is that the existence of the blockchain and the goal of the blockchain is anonymity, decentralization, pure meritocracy, democratization, right?
Mhm.
But by creating an infinitely complex way to tag law, basically, or to tie you to legal responsibility, isn't there a way in which we're just making, like, the law itself, the legal apparatus, even more powerful and detailed? And the legal apparatus is often used to oppress and, like, criminalize people.
So, I mean, that's a super good point, and, like, totally off topic from talking about centralized platforms. But
All right, great.
so I think we should probably talk about it, and we can probably come back to it next episode in more detail. But I mean, it is a super good question, and to say there's an answer to it would be, I think, a lie from anyone.
Right. But I'm just like, to put it in other words, like, are we screwing ourselves later when the IRS suddenly comes in and says, okay, the blockchain's actionable, you want it to be real? It means this and this now. And Congress passed a law that now it means this, and we'll take this from you,
Yeah. Well, so yeah, this is like multiple different layers, but the SEC and Congress do need to act, because they're leaving a lot of very creative, hardworking people in limbo while they're building these systems outside of the normal legal boundaries. And while some people are choosing to go within the normal legal boundaries, the most innovative groups, which are the DAOs, the decentralized autonomous organizations, a lot of them are just loosely connected individuals working towards a common goal. And a lot of what they're doing is producing value and revenue, which does have tax implications, but the legal protections for the people doing this are not clear. And there are probably going to be a few very difficult court cases that hopefully don't ruin a bunch of people's lives in order to get this straightened out. So Congress needs to act in a way that is not short-sighted. They need to put like a lot of energy to this, not just vote on a law to say DAOs are corporations now, because there's a lot that can be done. On the other side of that, with the hope of constraining people and oppressing people using the blockchain, I think is absolutely a reality that could occur. And I think that with any powerful technology, you're going to have the responsibility to shepherd it into responsible ways, because if something has the power to do a lot of good, someone will also find ways for it to do a lot of damage to people. And that's one of the big criticisms right now, is that crypto, because it disintermediates so much legal framework, like IP, royalties, and things like this, people can move so quickly and can create not legal constructs, but contractual constructs that a lot of other people don't understand, right? So some of the stuff that we're seeing, some of the hype that we're seeing around NFTs, a lot of that is kind of using people's ignorance and hopes of technology to like just get rich quick, basically. And so that's kind of what this whole story is about, is if you don't work towards the future that you want to see, then you're going to get stuck with the future that is built by the entrenched powers that already exist. And I would argue that a lot of those entrenched powers are not trustworthy. So if you have the means and the energy, this is kind of a call to action to get involved.
This is the one that speaks to you, yeah? If climate change speaks to you and you're busy doing that, that's acceptable. But if this one speaks to you...
There are plenty. Everyone's got to work together on a lot of different problems.
On a lot of shit, yeah.
and of course, then you bring up the blockchain and climate change. And so now you have technologies that are trying to take the blockchain off of its super energy intensive
and we'll
production.
need new technologies for that, right?
Yeah. Well, and so Bitcoin as proof of work doesn't seem like it's going to change anytime soon. But for instance, like Ethereum is moving to proof of stake. It's supposed to reduce energy consumption. And then a lot of these newer blockchains have much, much lower energy consumption than Bitcoin and Ethereum. So hopefully that argument against blockchain tech is going to be minimized here in the near future.
That'd be nice. Did you hear the Great Barrier Reef for some reason is recovering? It's nice, right?
No, that's always nice to hear. Yeah.
Right?
Any reason? Or just like...
there were science reasons and theories, but it's some kind of like anomalously good year where it's recovering to some degree. It by no means means, that problem has gone away, but you never see it coming back, and I guess it bounced back a lot this year.
Oh,
which is
that
great.
That is really nice. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for this uplifting message. But anyways, so we're going to talk more. The next episode is probably going to be like very philosophical and lofty.
Ooh, I can't wait.
Yeah. This one is much more, hey, let's talk about a bunch of rich people who want to get richer, right? So, so who's going to do that? And the way I kind of see it is it's probably very simplistic, but you have games and you have tech giants. And a lot of those tech giants can kind of play in the game arena too. But
well, I've also got to bring up, only because this industry genuinely, really, historically does push. Like, for example, you know how YouTube now has a little bar graph? Like the ghostly play bar at the bottom of a YouTube video is now a graph that shows you which portions of the video were the most watched.
Oh, right, yeah.
You know who invented that technology?
Who?
Web designers at Pornhub. And porn constantly pushes the limits of, not in a classy way and not in a way where it's executed great, but they push the limits of technology because they're quick to jump on. It's actually the reverse. Humans are quick to sexualize anything new and fresh, right? And be like, can I fuck that though? I'll just say I assume there will be a sexual metaverse and aspect to the metaverse, and I bet that it blazes a path. I didn't want them to be left out.
You know what? You're right. And I am so sorry there is no porn metaverse in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe we should make a little addendum, because that sounds...
I'd be interested in checking
legitimately
in
interesting.
with, like, what are the porn people doing when it comes to haptic feedback and stuff.
Yeah.
I know for a fact there's a VR game where you wear a blowjob machine and use the VR game. And all joking and all like, ha ha ha, that's dirty aside, that is at the forefront of VR haptic feedback. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of on the cutting edge.
Yeah.
Sitting there with your dong in a sleeve with little massage balls in it.
It would be really interesting to see how much more... Because with the metaverse stuff, a lot of it is spatial. It's kind of like spatial experiences, right? It's not just playing. It's not just shopping or whatever. It's actually like having a digital space to move around in, right? So even in porn, right? Will like almost like you remember those anime games, like the anime dating games?
Mm-hmm.
Like, do you get more complex interactions where sex is actually just the end result, and people end up spending a lot more time, building up a fantasy before it's over? Or do you just have blowjob machines?
I don't know. I did review a bunch of porn VR games for a different thing, and 1-900 hot dog shout out. And there was like a mix. It was like half and half games where you would shoot enough evil people to win the right to get a blowjob, or like slash enough bad guys with your sword, and then you'd have sex with a hot. So like those old games you're talking about, but instead of uncovering a single anime image, you're uncovering a little animation of yourself having sex. And then the other ones were weirdly like, there was one called the Girlfriend Experience where you had to slowly earn the right to, it's like, just get to it. This is porn. Come on. If this were a video, I would skip 40 minutes in to see what's up. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So that's actually, no, that's super. I didn't know that was already a thing, like porn video games.
But what were the other two? Were giant corporations.
Okay. So yeah, games and tech giants, right? So
and video gaming, right?
Yeah,
the most lucrative industry.
So there are a couple, this could be like many hours long, but there are a couple giant players that we just want to address here to get people thinking about what's happening here. So the first one is, I think probably the one that some people would say is closest to building like a metaverse, I'll say that, is Roblox, right? Roblox has been around since, I think, like 2006. Which is pretty insane to think about. It's got 43 million daily users, and there are 40 million games built on Roblox. That is pretty mind-blowing to me to actually like see written on text, and most of those games are never used, just like we talked about. Google is only 4% of the internet.
What are they games like Dreams, where the game can be anything, or are they like Roblox levels?
Oh, they're all like voxel, but there is a lot of creativity in Roblox. Like Squid Game. I don't know if you heard, a bunch of parents were mad because Roblox is a kids platform, And Squid
someone
Game
made Squid Game again.
No, not
in
someone.
Roblox?
Like Netflix made the Squid Game Roblox game, and like now a bunch of kids are like, "Can I watch Squid Game?"
Oh.
But
see, I am having to Google Roblox. Yeah, I see the Squid Game one because that's how far. And I'm deeply. I work at a video game news outfit, and I'm deeply steeped in gaming and pop culture my whole life. And I just know that Roblox is a game that kids like.
Yeah.
What else should I know about it? It's the metaverse, because that's the takeaway of our miniseries.
No, but in some articles and stuff, people at Roblox will say like, "Oh, some people say we're making the metaverse," and it's like kind of tongue in cheek, like, "Oh well, we're not making the metaverse
if you say
unless you think
say.
we are, right?"
Yeah.
So there's that aspect to it. But what Roblox is basically an interconnected directory of games that anyone can make, and you can monetize those games, and you can monetize commerce within the game. So there's a lot of stuff that kind of ticks the boxes of the metaverse, but it's
yeah.
But
is it a persistent shared virtual universe?
That one
is it maintained
sure
separate from your, you know what I mean? Is it cloud based?
Well, yeah, it's cloud based. It's cloud based. It's a native client. You download the Roblox game, and then you kind of have this directory, and you can search through stuff. But it is cloud based.
Like Dreams, which is like my favorite thing that I love to talk about, I don't think would qualify as a metaverse, other than arguably DreamCon, which is a special thing they do because it's not persistent, right? You're downloading a module of someone's game they made, and you play through it in a bubble, and then you put it back in the cloud. Yeah. Is Roblox like that, or is Roblox always
Roblox
on?
is more, it's like servers that you access.
Okay.
And Dreams is wonderful, but it is definitely more game than metaverse platform for sure. Although I think a lot of the techniques that they're using will potentially inform how user-generated content gets made.
Like how you gamify the process of developing in 3D space and programming language.
I mean, it's beautiful. It's a gorgeous game.
My favorite thing about Dreams is how they were able to gamify how programming, like you can code behaviors without knowing programming by connecting lines and dots. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, the no-code scripting that they have is something that pretty much every platform should be looking at, I think, to figure out. But so Dreams is actually the worst, because Dreams is basically like a donor system for content. You don't there's no way to monetize anything on it. They just own all your stuff.
They say that they're working toward that.
Okay, well, they're sure taking their time on it. But Roblox is not. So pretty much all of these game companies are not much better. Roblox only allows creators. So Roblox is only a game creation engine, right? All they do is let you build other games, and they have a directory that facilitates people playing your game. And they take 70% of all of the value that's made on Roblox. So creators, and there are creators who make a lot of money. But they're only making 30% of what they could be making. And, you compare that to traditional marketplaces like Amazon is like 15% for creators, which is actually pretty high nowadays for physical objects. And then you've got like Etsy, which is 5%, which a lot of people over the years have said Etsy was not a viable business model because it
rips you off too hard for anyone to survive.
Well, no. Oh, no. Etsy only takes 5%. They give the creators 95%.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay. And you're saying they didn't think they'd be able to fuel themselves.
Yeah. But what's happened is from the development of Web 2, the digital platforms, like anything that deals in non-physical items, for some reason, maybe it's because of the volume that creators can sell their creations.
They've been able to flip that and take the lion's share.
Yeah, they take almost all of it. So Roblox was really revolutionary. They started in 2006. That predates Minecraft by 5 years even. So they really pioneered this voxel-based editing system. And basically over the past 15 years, they have just built this crazy network, and the network effects of their platform are just unbeatable, right? So you're stuck.
Right.
If you want to make video games for kids using Roblox or any technology like that, you're basically going to give them 70%, and you're just going to like it because that's how they're doing it. Roblox's metaverse, their actual like stated metaverse goals are kind of cryptic because they have this whole safety mindset, right? Because they're geared towards kids.
Because it's for kids, yeah.
And a lot of some of the communications I saw from like on their blog and stuff, we're talking about like how they're going to integrate voice chat, and it seems like everything they do has to be so calculated because any misstep with children is rightfully scrutinized at a much more strictly than anything else, right? So I see them as really unable to play a big part in this kind of new freewheeling vision of the metaverse that I think we all have.
You don't think like, they could launch a separate program for adults and take the metaverse world by storm by saying like the same company is now like, now we have Roblox but for adults. Here you go.
If you were Roblox and you were already
so
how much are they worth? They're worth like $72 billion. I looked it up. Nintendo's worth $52 billion. So Roblox, which is just a thing to make games for kids, is worth much more than Nintendo.
Yeah.
So I mean that kind of tells you where their incentives lie. But they are probably going to be a big part of things as it emerges. It's just going to be very difficult for them because
there's some kind of limit on it. Because of the voice chat thing as well, yeah.
Well, I mean, they'll get voice chat. I saw they're experimenting with voice chat and stuff. It's just everything has to be scrutinized and like black-hatted every single way because whatever horrible thing you can imagine someone's going to do, they're going to do it, right? So you have to lock it down in ways that probably we just can't even imagine as people who don't work at Roblox.
And if listeners don't know, the term black-hatted means getting hackers to do the worst things possible to test your program and be like, oh yeah, you got the child pornography uploaded to our screen. That's bad. We got to fix that. Stuff like that.
Yeah. Or not even hackers, just like someone who has a voice chat who's going to be like saying lewd stuff.
I'm just going to yell racial epithets and see if you hear me. Well, the system failed. Etc.
Yeah. So the next one is Fortnite, and Fortnite's probably more recognizable to you, right? Like, have you?
Yeah. Then Roblox? Okay. Yes.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Okay. So just to say, like, even though I'm pretty idealistic on all this stuff and all these platforms are kind of not what I want in the end, I love Epic, and like I can't even tell you how many hours of Unreal Tournament I played in middle school, high school probably. So I think they're pretty incredible, and the Unreal Engine is also a pretty important part of this story as well. But Fortnite itself is for those who don't know, which is probably nobody, is a battle royale game, which if you actually think about, is very technically difficult. The number of people that exist on these servers is way higher than anything that we had as kids, right?
And it only works, the game only feels fair if there's relatively no lag between all those people and they're all doing sophisticated movements in 3D space. It's pretty tough.
Yeah, and I think that really only became possible in like 2017. That's why there was no battle royale before that. And Fortnite's free to play, and it's grown in ways that are actually, this is kind of the coolest thing, right? Epic built this game where you fight each other in big groups, and what happened? People turned it into a social network. Like something happened to it that Epic probably would have never predicted, right? And that's kind of the whole magic of the metaverse, I think, is you're going to set up these constructs, and then it's going to be tested and twisted and turned into things that you just don't even expect. And that's the beauty of it. So Fortnite is like one of the biggest social networks now, as far as I know, for especially like the younger crowd. I don't think people our age just go on.
Do they
Fortnite
just go into the lobby and voice chat? What do they do?
Yeah, you just go hang out.
Yeah,
just go hang out in Fortnite. No, you don't need to fight.
But doesn't the gas get, or doesn't the map get smaller and smaller till you die? Is that not part of it?
Oh, you can just be in the lobbies and stuff. Yeah.
Oh, I see. And okay, I guess that makes sense. What's your thought on Epic suing Apple about Apple has Fortnite in its game store, and then Epic was making money off of Fortnite, and Apple said, you can't do that. You can't monetize the game within the game. This is our scam. We monetize the game. And Epic split off and made the Epic store and is suing Apple to be like, yes, we can. No, everyone can monetize what they need to. Are you pro that? I mean, are you pro Epic in that case? Because I feel like that is trying to pave the way for the creators of things get to monetize those things in the metaverse, right?
So I will say that I think that the app stores, specifically the Android App Store and the Apple App Store, are abominations of Web 2 that are some of the most extractive, exploitative mechanisms that these corporations have come up with.
Because they literally are just,
aside from surveillance cap.
This is just a box where you get everything else. You just come here to get all the things. Yeah.
Yeah. And we control it. And we're going to take, what, 30%?
We're the middleman. Yeah.
Or maybe
for nothing.
For nothing. Which is the same as Roblox, right? So aside from surveillance capitalism, I think that's like the worst thing that has come out of all this. Right. And we just accept it, right? We just accept it. Now, I will say that...
Wake up, sheeple.
That Epic doing... Oh, God, am I Alex Jones? That's no good.
A little bit.
Oh God, I saw a kid. I went to go pick my kid up from school, and one of the parents had an Alex Jones shirt, and I was like, "No, where are we? This is scary." But anyways, maybe I'll go down this rabbit hole a little bit more. But Epic is not an egalitarian company, right? Like they're doing that because Apple was taking 30% of their profits. And they had the weight and the money to actually fight Apple. And now they've created this Epic game store, which is, I think, what do they get? 12? I think they take 12%, which is much more reasonable, or maybe 15%. I have it written down somewhere. But I actually heard that Tim Sweeney, the CEO, wanted to do it much lower, but their board said no. Probably.
Like that was the compromise position between pure unbridled capitalism and the guy who wants the future to be good.
Yes, I think it was great that they did it, and I think that they're important, but they're still running. No matter how much Tim Sweeney seems to believe all this stuff himself, he's still in charge of a multi-billion-dollar company that has stakeholders that demand something from it and will not allow a true change, of course, right? It's the whole steering a big ship thing. You just can't make these wild shifts like someone in the crypto space can do. But Fortnite itself, just to throw shade at Epic a little bit, they only give... So people can monetize on Fortnite, and you have to be like vetted and accepted into their creator program. And they only give creators 5% of the sales of what they... Why would anyone even waste their time? And I guess it's because there are 350 million users. That's why. But
the platform's so big,
so exploitative. I just couldn't even believe when I saw that. On the other hand, Tim Sweeney, outside of Fortnite, Epic also makes the Unreal Engine, which is probably the most powerful game engine that is available to outside creators, right? Like Disney, I guess, quote unquote, films The Mandalorian with the Unreal Engine. The whole world was made with the Unreal Engine, like a video game. There's also the Unity engine, which is also very popular. But the Unreal Engine has, I mean, it just makes AAA looking stuff, right? Like everything is gorgeous with it. And it has very
Unreal
complex.
5 coming soon, looking good.
Yeah, and it's pretty good. The I guess the one problem, if you want to take this to its extreme, is that it still demands fees from people to use, and then it also has it looks like an additional 7%. So it's a 5% fee for using the Unreal Engine, and then 7% for items sold in games using the Unreal Engine. Mm-hmm. So it's a much scaled down version of the Apple App Store as far as the extractive model that they have. But Unreal still controls how it works. So Tim Sweeney and the board can make edicts basically that would radically change the developer landscape and the user landscape too. Mm. They can make interoperability if they want. They can also close that interoperability. So while these things are powerful and they're so alluring to use, if you take a step back and you think of the metaverse as the internet rather than as a thing like Unreal, right? Or Fortnite or Roblox, these tools making up the foundation of the metaverse is kind of a scary thought to me. Mm. There are open source tools that can be alternatives to these, and I would say that, in the next episode we'll talk more about it, but we should really be looking to those solutions to see if we can build them up.
And those are the true heroes of the metaverse that we should be flocking to their technology and using their shit.
I can't even... So I am biased. I'm actually starting to work on projects in this space, so I'm not just like a casual observer anymore in this, but there are people who have been toiling for over a decade to make these technologies ready for right now. And they're pretty advanced, and they need some love to compete with the likes of Unreal Engine, but the idealism and the intent behind them is pretty pure. So as we move forward and as you decide, audience, to make your virtual worlds, just make sure you're understanding that the architecture choices that you make will impact the business models that follow, your incentives as you start to develop your own business models, and kind of the virtuous cycle of the technologies that evolve to further create the metaverse. My soapbox for that one.
Do good stuff now or bad stuff will happen to you later.
Now, on the other side, okay, so we talked about games a little bit. Barely a taste, right? Just the two biggest platforms, pretty much. But on the other side, you have these like hard tech giant companies, right? Like the FANG kind of companies. And everyone's got their metaverse play that they're going to do, but we're just going to talk about NVIDIA and Meta. And NVIDIA is a little bit more interesting because they're more of an enabler of the metaverse. And then, of course, Meta we'll just cover because we've been talking about them the entire time. But so NVIDIA is great. I've had GeForce graphics cards since early high school, probably. They're always wonderful.
When you were playing all that Quake,
all my Rainbow Six and my Unreal Tournament and all that stuff.
Chavez, yeah.
That's right. I didn't ever get into Counter-Strike. I played Rainbow Six like a weirdo for some reason. But NVIDIA does a lot more than just hardware these days. They have this thing called PhysX, which is a really advanced physics engine, and this Omniverse platform. And the Omniverse platform is like an enterprise-level simulation environment. And I think their newest thing is that they're going to build something called Earth 2, which is a digital twin of Earth to do like climate change research, like scientific research to actually try to model different,
The
different things we can do.
Butterfly flapping its wings, causing the hurt. Be predictive.
Yeah, and while that itself, the code for that I don't think is open source, and they do charge quite a bit of money to use like the Omniverse digital twin engine. NVIDIA does open source a ton of stuff, and they do some of the most interesting AI research. Like outside of Facebook and Google, NVIDIA does so much computer vision research. And I don't know, did you hear that their CEO gave a corporate keynote, and there were portions of the keynote that were entirely computer generated, and nobody knew. They only announced it like months afterwards.
That's great.
So yeah, NVIDIA it's kind of unclear to me, and if anyone like hears this and has more insight into their actual metaverse intentions, I'd love to know. It's kind of unclear to me how they will play in it, but it doesn't sound like they're going to try to build the metaverse. They seem like a general infrastructure layer that like most everyone will just be building on, right? We're all going to have NVIDIA graphics cards, and
the physics of the metaverse will run on PhysX or whatever.
It could run on PhysX, although that's actually a super interesting question, is for the metaverse to exist in the way that is talked about in like Ready Player One and
it has to agree upon laws of physics.
It does, which think about that for a second.
We have to establish and decide what should the physics of the metaverse be. How floaty is jumping in the metaverse? Right. Is it a twin to our universe where you just jump Earth gravity height based on your BMI or your avatar's mass? Or can you jump slightly higher because to get around the metaverse and avoid crowds, we all have to, be able to jump up to second level. Like, man, there's a lot of decisions to be made.
Well, every world can probably have its own gravity and stuff.
That's true.
There are other things. So the way that, like, think about like World of Warcraft, you have swords that do things, right? Mm-hmm. And the swords are made out of steel or whatever fantasy material you have, but they all have characteristics, right? Like they have material characteristics that Blizzard defines, and it works within Blizzard. But what if Blizzard wanted to let you bring a sword to Fortnite or something? Then those two systems have to agree on what the material characteristics are, right? Yeah. So that kind of leads you down a road of developing actual physical characteristics the way that you would in like if you were doing a simulation for an engineering
you were God
problem.
Creating the universe.
Well,
like you actually have to decide the fundamental fabric of reality.
Yeah. And that's going to be pretty tough.
This is what a sword is. Yeah.
And that's why a lot of people say, well, this metaverse thing's never actually going to happen because there's no way.
Never going to get off the ground.
There's no way a bunch of people are going to agree on all the stuff that potentially lowers the value of their own platforms.
Or imagining how frequently it'll be like, oh, I tried to bring my sword from this room into this room and the metaverse crashed. Like the metaverse is just constantly going, I don't know. I can't deal with this. Will we get there? Interesting.
I mean, for a long, long time, it's probably going to be you have a bunch of crap that you can carry around with you, and then you just can't use most of it in a lot of places. Mm-hmm. But that also seems like if you have that inventory system and people have all this stuff that they can carry around with them, it seems like it would incentivize people to try to figure out ways to make all that stuff work together. Because if you have a place...
remember 3 years ago when the Free Britney bracelets were huge in the metaverse? Now everyone has them, but they don't do anything anymore. Let's make our burger stand react to the Free Britney bracelets that everyone has. Yeah, there's like a built-in incentive to connect to other products and to make your thing reactive to other products. It reminds me of the Universal City Studios or whatever it's called, Universal Studios Hollywood, Harry Potter land, where you buy the wand that you have to pay for, but then the wand reacts with various shit around the sculpted environment.
Pay $60 for a wand that lights up when you get close to something.
Well, it's like an RFID chip, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
yeah.
but it's the same logic, right? And it's interesting that it would be like if the Orange Julius down the street was like, yeah, let's make it so our thing interacts with that Harry Potter wand.
Yeah.
And that's more feasible in the metaverse where you just load up you pay a licensing fee to load up the Unreal
Ah,
Engine and make your changes and
see, that's the problem. Is if you have a bunch of people who are beholden to a bunch of other people, that's when they
licensing
won't
fees.
do it.
And it'll be all
You gotta
fucked.
make
Yeah.
it, and that's the next one, the open metaverse.
Okay.
But
Great.
so this metaverse, even Nvidia it has stakeholders and incentives that will make it difficult for it to make truly free tools unless they can figure out ways
TFTs.
that those tools. What's that?
TFTs. It wasn't
Oh.
worth repeating.
Oh, sorry. Cut that out.
It's like an NFT, but for tools.
Oh, that flew right over my head. Sorry. Yeah, but it'll be tough.
Completely derailed you.
To completely
With that.
derailed me.
Good.
That's how you know. That's how my brain works. But anyways, yeah, Nvidia, unclear what they're going to do. I assume they're going to be working on tooling. How open that tooling is yet to be seen. They have a pretty good track record with their research, but you know, we'll see. We'll see over the next couple of years how they work out. And the final one is Meta, and I just
Meta World
want,
Peace.
yeah,
Good at
Meta
basketball.
the appropriators of Neil Stephenson's word. I want to say, like, we've been pretty much complaining about Meta the entire 2 episodes so far, but I will say that Mark Zuckerberg at least seems to understand, like he's read Snow Crash probably.
Mm-hmm.
Unlike most.
Oh, he actually understands the term and uses it functionally.
Yeah, like he even says, and the corporate stance of Meta seems to be like, no, there's no way we're making the metaverse. We're just going to be a giant part of the metaverse that dictates all of its rules and everything. And it uses Facebook single sign-on. And
like, we'll try to use our big, strong money and market share to make sure that our sword, our definition of the materials of sword, that one wins. Or that's what most places abide by, right? So they aren't...
Well, yeah, where
literally
your
the
digital
metaverse.
identity is Facebook, and they can do their surveillance capitalism across the entire metaverse, and
they want to have as much sway in the metaverse as possible, and they're starting early.
Yeah, right. And they are very early to the point that a lot of people are like,
the metaverse doesn't exist yet. You're
you're not going.
And,
and I mean, to give a little credit, the guy is changing his entire corporate identity to do this 10 years probably before it's really fully come to fruition and he's making money off of it. So, gotta give a little credit, but that's like giving the Empire a little credit for building the Death Star. I feel like. They also are doing things that are seen as very attractive. Like if you watch the Meta keynote, they're going to give creators 95%, kind of like an Etsy model. They're barely taking anything for facilitating commerce. And that is so awesome. But Facebook's entire model is giving you quote unquote free stuff, like the tools to build these worlds and allowing you to capture a lot of your value, because that value is actually much lower than the value of their true business model, which is
data mining, right?
Which is data mining and the controlling of our attention and what we do and look at. And I think
so their incentive for making the metaverse tool, they're basically employing the same strategy they always have, which is, oh yeah, come to Facebook and hang out. It's free. Because what Facebook is you say interesting things or take good pictures or videos and you put them there and we watch and we learn about you, and then we tell advertisers exactly who's going to buy this, and we make sure you see the ad. That's where our money comes from. It's but that's also, it's interesting only in that it's fascinating to me that over the course of human commerce, that seems to be one of the only methods we've come up with for how to keep money in circulation and keep the system afloat is advertising. Like, it's crazy to me that everything boils down to, you pay for the right to hold up a sign of your product And that supports everything. That supports like the arts and theater and film and gaming and everything. It all boils down to advertising.
And this is one of the loftiest and most difficult to understand parts of Web3, which we can talk about a little bit next time. But there are movements of people who are trying to find ways around that. And
to
while
not make the metaverse's blood pump targeted advertising. Yeah.
Right.
That would be fascinating and phenomenal. Yeah.
But that's not to say it's easy, right? Like there's a reason why all of these companies ended up growing up the way they did, because that's who has the money, and they found ways to optimize exactly for that business model, right? But the point of it is that no matter what Meta says, their track record is horrible. Their respect of people's privacy and autonomy is just non-existent. And for them to change their business model to something that doesn't demand that kind of exploitation is really, really difficult
and rigorous, honestly.
Imagine.
Yeah, and that doesn't even bring in the recent, admissions that have like. It's not really the point of this podcast, but it is true that Facebook/Meta has admitted to like, oh yeah, we radicalize people politically because our algorithm's good at that too. We know that's happening. We don't care. There's ways in which you could argue that Meta, nay Facebook, is responsible for things like the July 6th Capitol riots in a very real way, or, that they're a major part of that. And knowingly so. So I don't think they'd have what you call corporate scruples. We all saw The Social Network. Yeah. He's a little avaricious nerdlinger.
Well, I won't even. I think it's actually way worse than that, because I would imagine most of the people in Facebook Meta, including Mark Zuckerberg, are horrified by some of the stuff that happens because of their algorithms.
I'm sure they justify it to themselves by saying like, oh, we're a huge company. Bad shit happens sometimes. Look at all the good we do. There's ways to rationalize these things to yourself.
Well, not only that, but they say they want to change. But then when it comes down to it and those changes are put on paper and the actual algorithms exist that can change them, what does that do to the business model? It mutes it, right? And then the shareholders are unhappy, and then the stock goes down, and then Facebook stops growing, and then they can't make the metaverse, right? So there's like, they're just stuck. They're stuck in this system that they just won't be able to escape from. And not only that, but because they have so much attention, they're almost like a Roblox too, right? Like anything they do, any misstep that happens, people are just going to be screaming for Mark Zuckerberg's blood. And so what we're going to get is a super vanilla metaverse where it's just like Wii Sports. Have you seen their video? Like, have you seen Horizons?
Tame and bland as possible, but then at the same time, it secretly exploits you as hard as possible. Yeah.
So I mean,
that's the worst case scenario.
It is. But if we don't do anything other than that, then that is the reality we will get, and we'll all probably like it because we just kind of accept things as they come. But it's not the best way, and it's not what we need to have. You're saying
that will be, we will accept, well, that's the metaverse because that's what it is. So that's what we got. But you're here to say that doesn't have to be. We could have a much better one.
Yeah, we could have one that's wild and imaginative and maybe a little bit messy. But I think most people would think that's worth it.
Make choices.
And then you can always go
that.
to the meta part of the metaverse.
That's
which
true.
Will be more safer, or Roblox. But the point here is that I think these centralized, we call them like the centralized walled garden platforms, are going to try to start building the metaverse, or at least influence the way the metaverse operates, based on business models, right? Not on organic growth or bottoms up design, right? They have intention and they have an agenda, right? Corporations have roadmaps and revenue targets and things like that. And so the next episode is going to be talking about basically, the rebels, the people who are doing that bottoms up design in different ways. Some people still very profit focused, and some people much more focused on designing something like what the beginnings of the internet were. But the idea is that through the hopeful cooperation of these large numbers of small projects, that the architecture of this thing that we're calling the metaverse is influenced in ways that drive it to be much more equitable and inclusive than what these companies kind of espouse as being equitable and inclusive, right? It's easy for Meta to say they're inclusive because anyone can use Meta, but is inclusivity and an equitable environment really surveilling people and giving them advertisements that might exploit their need for payday loans and things? I would argue that is not what we want.
Ready access to, relatively consequence-free expression, I think, is
right. Not just the content, right? It's not just access to content. Right. I think that's a lot of what the messaging is from the side that's kind of like Meta, the side that's demanding you give up your data for access to things. And so we'll learn what these other people are doing.
How we'll save this, like what we can do.
Yeah.
Is that the next topic? Okay, great. That would make sense to me. But I don't know the topic ahead of time. Great.
Or at least it's going to be the actual platforms. I think the platforms will be the next one, and then
we'll talk about lesser known platforms that are kind of doing it right and what we can learn from that. Great.
And then
that sounds
fun.
The
fourth one is like we can actually do like a call to action of what are maybe the steps of the what are all these like governance models, and how can corporations change in the metaverse and things like that.
Cool. And of course we'll have another Jesus Christ Superstar track. So stay tuned next time on Science or whatever. We love you.
This has been a Small Beans endeavor. We're a bunch of pals who make podcasts, sketches, music, web series, and movies. The beans always have new ideas percolating, so make sure to check us out at patreon.com/smallbeans. That's patreon.com/smallbeans, where you can browse all of our current and past content, see what we've got planned in the future, and learn how your support can help the small beans grow into huge, giant monster beans. If you enjoyed this content module, please like, rate, subscribe, or tell a friend about us. We love you!